Why does everyone tease the British for their tea habit, but no one ever raises an eyebrow at the Chinese for doing exactly the same thing? Well, today we set the record on tea, once and for all, as straight as an arrow. To do that, let's open China. Now, in the UK, tea has already acquired a not unsubstantial history of sippage. 3 centuries, in fact.
In China, tea has had a history of almost 5,000 years.
In fact, some really posh folks still call it a cup of cha. Why? Because that is Chinese for a cup of tea. Now, our main penchant as British is for red tea, or what we call red tea, which is typically imported from India, Sri Lanka, and of course, China's Lapsang Souchong crops.
While in China, thousands of types of tea and many groups of tea, such as red, yellow, green, black, white, etc. More curious still, however, is the misnaming of China's red tea in the UK. It's known as black tea. Not only that, but China's own kind of black tea is referred in the UK as fermented tea.
When us folks back home take a tea break, we're simply calling it stopping for a cuppa or a brew. Though the idea of afternoon tea is commonplace, there are actually simply not enough times in the day to give all the tea breaks that British people take their own name, nor the bathroom breaks that surely follow. This is, however, strictly between meals.
Chinese tea has always been, however, taken liberally, and from sunrise to sunset. In southeastern China's Guangdong and Jiangsu provinces, there are even specialty dishes to go with your breakfast tea.
Taking the British attitude towards teapot scheduling to China would mean missing out on the hubbub of China's famed tea houses,
where people from all walks of life gather together to drink tea, watch plays, and chat caroling. It would be hard to find places with more prosperous folk culture other than tea houses.
If the British had to say one word in Chinese that they know, it would probably be Kung Fu. Now, most of us probably couldn't chop a single stroke of Kung Fu without falling over rather awkwardly and probably quite slowly.
But you could certainly risk less injury in pouring oneself a cup of Kung Fu tea. The ornate intricacy involved in serving a cup of Chinese tea in the traditional manner, however, requires various tools and vessels. And in and of itself is quite the show. It is in fact a ceremony and a very important means of declaring the warmth of a welcome to any guests.
The answer is 2. The first round is for rinsing the tea, aiming to create the purest cup of tea possible by opening the leaves fully and clearing out any loose leaf to create a crystal clear cup in the next round of pouring.
There is a rule that 70% of cups full and 30 must remain for humanity. That is to say, 30% full cups are ceremoniously left untouched in good taste, and they must never be handed over until they have been cooled enough to be handled.
Don't huff it down like a builder. Be sure to sip it. Savour its bouquet much like one would a fine wine. Seriously, however, too much scalding tea is really bad for that tummy. Just saying. Nothing except the fact that it's worth noting that although it might seem complicated when compared to that office cuppa,
it is in fact very much person-focused, or 以人为本.
And when placed side by side with, say, Japanese tea culture, a horrendously complicated process.
Beautiful as it may seem, Chinese tea is socially engaging and classy act.
So that's why it always has been and probably always will be easier to knock the Brits for their popping and dipping and dunking and clinking.
Sir Arthur Wing Pinero says something like, where there is tea, there is hope.
So, we hope that that's cleared things up for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out our Facebook, our Instagram and our Twitter. But most of all, remember, keep this open and see you next time.
朕喝的茶都是8分烫，这都酿成7分了，茶香都淡了。
奴才该死，奴才该死。